Hi there, my name is Sue Elson. I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist and I'm here today to present information on LinkedIn for you and your institution for Educate Plus. And originally, as you can see here on my screen, this was held on the 16th of October 2018 at Carey Baptist Grammar School. And unfortunately, we had a variety of technical and logistical issues. And so I figured the best way for you to get access to this information would be if I recorded it similar to a webinar and give you the information that way. So just to give you a bit of background, I've actually been involved with Educate Plus since the International Conference in Melbourne in 2014. I've since been up to Sydney for the New South Wales ACT conference. I've done a couple of PDs, as well as I'll be going up to Brisbane for the conference next year. So really happy to be here. As a result of my input, I've also been acquired by a variety of other schools and universities around Australia to provide them with support on LinkedIn and other social media and their online presence. So today I'd like to make sure that you have this handout. As you'll see in the handout, there's a lot of links and a lot of information that you can follow up on after this recording. So I really encourage you to do that and to actually take action. And I'm also, you can see I've got my email address there, happy to answer quick questions via email or come and consult directly with your school. Okay, so as we go through the handout, you'll see that everything's sort of categorised, and I did some work for Mount Carmel in Sandy Bay, Hobart, and found out some information whilst we were reviewing a social media policy on the eSafety Commissioner, and there's some really good content there, as well as an eSafety checklist that I'd like to encourage you to check out. Also, Google reviews are obviously an extremely important component of a digital online presence for a school, so I encourage you to check out that article on Google reviews. And primary and secondary keywords are absolutely critical. So one of the schools I've worked with is Siena College, and their website was originally just called Siena College, but they also wanted to be known for being a Catholic girls' school in Camberwell. And so now when you do a search for Catholic Girls' School Camberwell, their school comes up because after the name of their school, the title of their website says Catholic Girls' School Camberwell. So if you haven't already collected the keywords for your school, I'm really going to encourage you to do that, because you're going to need it not only on LinkedIn, but on any other online presence that you have. So really encourage you, if you don't know how to collect those keywords, to follow that article. The next thing is the benefits of LinkedIn. Now, a lot of people have made automatic assumptions about LinkedIn, and things like it's just Facebook for business and where somebody else can have it, but I don't want to have it for me, and so on. And I really encourage you to please look beyond that. I've been on LinkedIn since 2003. I'm one of the first 80,000 people in the world on the platform, and I've seen it grow and develop, and out of the platforms, it's absolutely my favourite social media. So I encourage you to check out that benefits of LinkedIn. You'll see that it will help you build your own network. You can maintain relationships with people over time, and you can obviously collect a history of what you've been doing, and you can be found online, lots of different reasons. But if you're okay, but somebody else you know is not okay, then I encourage you to invite them to read this book article on the business case for LinkedIn. And alternatively, if you need to actually do your own LinkedIn profile, then this one is why you should create a good LinkedIn profile. Obviously, every year there are lots of changes on LinkedIn, so I also encourage you to keep up to date with those. And then when I'm normally live with an audience, I ask them what sort of things have you got out of LinkedIn, and I encourage them to download the app so that we can demonstrate on the mobile phone. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do that today, but I might try and explain it to you at least at the end. So for those of you who don't know, LinkedIn was started in the living room of co-founder Reid Hoffman in 2002 and launched on the 5th of May 2003. It's the world's largest professional network with over 600 million members worldwide in over 200 countries, and over 9 million of those are actually in Australia. And if you'd like to follow the social media news website, they keep up to date with the social media statistics and compare the different platforms. So for example, this time last year, Facebook had 17 million active monthly users, and this year it's gone down to 15 million. LinkedIn last year was 4 million active monthly users in Australia, and now it's gone up to 4.5 million. So it's good to get a little bit of context on which platforms are being used and how often they're being engaged with. Their mission is to connect the world's professionals and make them more productive and successful, and they source their revenue from multiple different streams, and that's obviously why they're sustainable. And they've also acquired additional services that they've integrated with the platform and been acquired by Microsoft in 2016. They started off as a network and have moved across into publishing. Like all social media platforms, I suspect there'll be some form of actual social commerce in the future where you can purchase products and goods within the platform. So that's no doubt coming. And if you want to keep up to date with the news or the stats about LinkedIn or even the updates, then you can subscribe to the blog. So check those links out as well. So when I do lots of presentations, I find that one of the biggest concerns is on privacy. And there are additional settings that you can adjust for that. But also, I'd like to remind you, it is your past history. It's not where you are right now or what you're going to be doing tomorrow. So you don't need to explain all of that. But I do believe you need to have an online presence because most people will Google you. That's even friends at parties will Google you, not just anybody associated with your school. Some people don't know who to connect to and they receive requests from all sorts of obscure places. So I say, well, you can choose who you would like to accept an invitation from, and it will depend on your purpose. So if it's somebody obscure from Bangladesh, well then you might not need to connect with those, but if it's somebody in your local area, then you might say yes. So entirely up to you. Some people suggest it takes too much time. Well, please don't get addicted for a start, but also do a cost-benefit analysis. And if it is proving to be successful, then keep going. Too costly, I'm still using a free account. If I felt that I would gain additional benefit and a return on my investment, I definitely would consider a premium account. Some people say, I can't write, I don't know what to say. So for those people, I suggest that you just write in dot points. After all, most of the people who are looking at the information online will be scrolling through on their mobile device. So it really is better if you have dot points anyway. If you're scared of computers, well, I believe that digital literacy is just filling in boxes, but digital competency is when you actually use the platform for your purpose. So you might incorporate some school videos, you might decide that you want to start publishing content around some particular theme or topic, and you can become a thought leader. There's lots of additional ways that you can move forward and really demonstrate how you can add value through online publishing. And it can be very, very worthwhile. But even if it's just your profile, making sure you've got all those extra bells and whistles will definitely help your school stand out. In terms of business rules, you need to make sure you're following the school's social media guidelines. And if you need help, ask a friend or an expert or ask me. I'm quite happy to answer, as I said before, quick questions via email. So before I work with any of my own individual clients, I like to start collecting some statistics and doing a backup so that we have sort of a state of the nation before we get going. So let's go to LinkedIn and see some of those. So first of all, if we click on My Network from the top menu, you will then see on the top left-hand side your number of connections. So I've got 15,190, and I would encourage you to jot that down in your notes. If you go on the blue LinkedIn icon and click your face, you can then scroll down and see that because I've been active recently, I've got 15,781 followers, which is more than my number of connections. So that's a sign that people really do like my content, because even people who are connected to me are still happy to receive my information, their news feed. So that's a good sign. And if you have a very active senior member of staff who wants to be known as a thought leader, make sure that that number of followers is consistently increasing. My favourite number to look at is this one here, which is my number of views over the last 90 days. And I encourage you to try and get more than 100, and then you'll know that your LinkedIn profile is working for you. Obviously, I've got 1,261, which is a lot more. But I love clicking on here and doing what I call reverse stalking, see who's looked at me. Now, 4 people have looked at me anonymously, and then 1 person has looked at me not anonymously, and so, but I could only see the last 5. If I had the premium account, I would be able to see the last 90 days and potentially follow up with those people. But it gives me some clues as to whether my profile is working for me, if my past clients or future clients are looking at my information. The next one is the number of search appearances, which is over here on the right hand side. And when we click on that, you'll see that that's just for the last 7 days, and it will give you some clues as to where people work and what they're looking for when they search for you. Also on that profile box or the dashboard box is this all-star mention about your profile, and that just basically says, well, it's not amazing, it just means that you've completed a lot of the boxes that are available. So when you see all these different sections you can add in, you've had a pretty good go at that, so well done. Further down on your profile, if you've had an opportunity to add in some skills, hopefully your top 3 skills are listed at the top and then all your rest below. And believe it or not, I had 4,500 votes for all of these, but a LinkedIn upgrade saw them all disappear. So unfortunately I've lost my votes, but I would encourage you to aim for at least 20 votes for your top 3 skills, if you can encourage a few friends and colleagues to do that for you. And obviously make sure that the most important ones are at the top. If you want to specialise in an area, I'd probably suggest no more than 20, but I run networks and do lots of things, so I've got a number of different classifications there. Also, you'll see that my number of recommendations received, 64, and given 54, is fairly similar. And I'd encourage you to try and get 6 recommendations, both given and received. I've seen some profiles where there's lots more received and not given, and that sort of gives me a bad impression of someone. So definitely encourage you to try and get a similar number of each. Now the next thing I'd like to encourage you to do is from Google Chrome on the top right hand side, you can click Settings and then scroll to the bottom and choose Advanced, and then scroll down again and you'll see Ask where to save each file before downloading, which will probably be there. So I just encourage you to slide it across and close that tab. Now once you've done that, you can visit your profile or anyone else's, and you can click this More box and choose Save to PDF. And I'm just going to save it to my desktop, and I will put today's date back to front, assuming it was still the 16th of October, and my name with dashes in between the words so it can easily be found, LinkedIn and profile. And that way I can say, yep, there's my how my profile looked before I made any changes. If I go back and I want to go back to something that was there, that's great. You'll see it sort of looks a little bit like a resume. It actually doesn't include all the information on my profile. So if there's anything there missing that is not included, I mean, mine's ridiculously long, so don't worry if yours isn't that long. And it doesn't include my subjects. You know, there's other information in there that's not included. So if you want to keep a backup copy of that, please do so. The other thing that I encourage all of my clients to do when they first start working with me is click on their little Me menu on the top and click Settings and Privacy, and then go to Privacy and scroll down and choose Download Your Data, choose the works, request an archive, pop the password in and choose Done. Now this will mean that LinkedIn will send you an email in a few days with a link in it, and you click on that link, download all of your files, and away you go. That will be a really terrific way for you to see all the information that you've added to LinkedIn, but also there'll be one which is all of your contacts, and you'll actually have a file, CSV file you can open in Excel, which will have the first name, last name, email address, current company, current job, and the date you connected with all of your LinkedIn connections. So obviously if you're saving that on a regular basis, you'll have a backup in the unlikely event that something goes wrong with LinkedIn. So there's a number of other settings, again, mentioned in your handout, so please keep going through these. We're now going to go through the second round on page 6. So the first one we're going to look at is from your profile page. So just click on the blue LinkedIn and then your photo spot. And then up here on the top right hand, well, you can see here that my URL for my profile is just my name. So mine's already been changed. But if you haven't changed your URL, you'll probably have a dash in there somewhere and then another dash and some numbers and letters. And that's not ideal. it means that it will not be optimized in Google search results for your name, and it also means that you won't be automatically optimized for Google search results either. So to change that, you can choose Edit Public Profile and URL and click on the pen, and if it's available, you can try putting your first name and last name as one word, all in lowercase, into that box and choose Save. If that's not available, you can try putting a dash between the two words, or you might want to put your pre-nominals, Doctor or something, Ms., Mr., or some post-nominals of your qualifications, or even a number, but please nothing to do with your date of birth. Also on this screen is this privacy button. So if something terrible happens and you literally feel the need to get off of the internet immediately, you can just come in here and turn this to no. You do not need to delete your LinkedIn profile. You can just turn your visibility off. Also on this page, you can determine which people can see your profile photo, so it can be public, and which of your sections can be viewed even if you're not signed, or if the person looking is not signed into LinkedIn. So the next one I want to address is your photograph. And this is actually a really important component of your LinkedIn profile. And it turns out that up to 60% of the time will be spent looking at the photograph. And you can see in here that depending on the size of your image, you can zoom in. And technically speaking, my eyes should be on the 1/3 line, but it chops off half of my head and leaves this bare neck showing. So I'm obviously not going to do that. But if you can have your eyes on the 1/3 line, smiling with your teeth showing and still fitting in the photo, that's sort of the perfect fit. And I do recommend a high neck for both men and women because it frames the face and keeps the focus back here on the eyes, which is where people really need to be looking at. There are various photos that people use, sometimes with a school building or blurred out children in the background or something like that. They're all good too. But the main thing you want people to be able to see is your eyes and be able to sort of say, yeah, that's somebody I'd like to communicate with in relation to whatever your purpose is. There's also a link in your notes here about what does a top professional photo look like, and also if you want to have it rated, you can log in to photofeeler.com, and a whole bunch of American mostly will assess your photo for competency, influence and likability. So please try not to take that all too personally, but sometimes if you've got a couple of different shots, you might want to try and see which headshot is most appealing to the people who are voting. The next thing I'd like to encourage you to do is update your headline. And if your school has a policy of always mentioning the school name in the headline, that's going to help your school appear even in Google search results. So for instance, if you Google me in Sydney, in Perth, or Melbourne for LinkedIn specialist, you'll see that my LinkedIn profile is number 1, page 1 of Google search results after that ad, which I can't do anything about. And then my website is also number 2 in organic search results. And that's because you'll see on multiple locations on my profile here, I mentioned LinkedIn specialist. So again, those keywords are important. Now you'll have about 120 characters that you can use in here if you are updating it on your laptop or desktop. If you update it on an iPhone, you will actually get about 200 characters, which is what I've done. So you get sort of 3.5 lines. And I've started off with a label, and I don't like being labelled, but most people seem to want to give everybody a label. So that's what I've done first of all, and that's what I can give the most value in. And then there's a variety of keywords after that, and then something memorable here at the end. So if that sort of style appeals to you, feel free to borrow it. If you've got a different style, for whatever reason, you can choose that. But just remember that those first characters are really, really important because they're what people are going to see as soon as you post something in the news feed. The background picture up the top here, you can see mine is sort of a lot of white space with my books on the right. And you might wonder why I didn't put my books in the middle, and that's because when somebody looks at this on their mobile device, my face will move to the middle of the screen and it will actually chop out a little bit of that book. But by having all this white space around it, it still encourages people to look at my face. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to put a school logo, make sure you perhaps put it just on the right-hand side of that background image, and yeah, you can perhaps supply that to staff and give them the opportunity to include it on their LinkedIn profile if they so choose. But please remember, an individual LinkedIn profile is for that person. It's not really their it's not owned, for instance, by the school. The summary is also really important, and obviously I'm a consultant and people hear about me in lots of different ways, and they've seen my photo, they've seen my keywords, and now actually what I want them to do is contact me. So that's why I've put that information there. And my phone's not buzzing and going crazy all the time, because I make it very clear, well, here are what my services are. So, don't just call me as an automatic LinkedIn help. That's obviously what I'm trying to demonstrate is my expertise. And then some dot points, and then because I do a lot of speaking, then I've got my bio in there and a couple of videos as well. So your actual summary may be a little bit different to that. So obviously think about what you're trying to achieve and what message is most important and what you actually want people to do after they've visited your LinkedIn profile. We're now going to look at some more settings on the middle of page 6 of your notes, and we'll start off with settings and privacy and then email addresses. So you can see I've got loads of different email addresses on my account, and I'm going to encourage you to add your school email address to your account, even though you might think I'm only using this for personal reasons, because if somebody knows you via that school email address, it will bring them to this profile, not some other profile. So I really encourage you to actually add the email addresses in here and never ever take them off, because that means that people will not come through to this LinkedIn profile. So if you're in their contact books. The next setting you can change after emails is your phone numbers. And you'll see I've already added my phone number in, but again, people who are concerned about their privacy often don't put their phone number in here, and that's perfectly fine. You're not required to. But I will warn you that if you do add your phone number, you've got to remember that a lot of the social media platforms are digital megalomaniacs, and they want to scour through your contacts and actually get you to, invite all of those people, including great Auntie Dora, to join LinkedIn. So one of my clients is a lovely woman in her 30s who's been on lots of first dates, and she accidentally, after prompting, said to sync, S-Y-N-C, her contacts with LinkedIn, and so all those first dates were invited to connect with her on LinkedIn, which, as you can imagine, was somewhat embarrassing. Further down the screen, and I'm not going to go through all the settings, just the ones I think that are most relevant, is autoplay videos, and I'm going to suggest you turn that one to no, so you don't chew through all of your data allowance on your mobile device when you're out and about. So you just turn on the videos that you really want to watch. Also under privacy, it asks who can see your email address. And obviously someone in my position wants everyone to be able to see it. But if it was the school principal, you might say, look, only you, because you don't necessarily want hassles from families or students or some other message late at night. So that might be an option for you. The next one is who can see your connections. For most people, I leave this as your connections, but again, if you're extremely senior, you didn't want people to know, you could choose only you. So if you and I are both connected to Roger, I would see, if you had only you, that you're connected to Roger, but I wouldn't see everybody else that you're connected to. So that's another option. This one, viewers of this profile also viewed, is really important to change to no. And the reason for that is if somebody looks at you on their LinkedIn mobile app and they scroll to the bottom and you have this turned to yes, then all of your competitors will be listed at the bottom of your LinkedIn profile, which is obviously not going to encourage the person to stay on your LinkedIn profile. So please turn that one to no. The next one is your profile viewing options. So some people might like to call this stalking, but this is where, if you want to, like I have mine turned on all the time so I can see the last 5 people who've looked at me. But if I wanted to look at someone anonymously, say there was a special interview on tomorrow, I could turn myself to anonymous and look at their LinkedIn profile, and they would never know that I had actually looked at their LinkedIn profile, even if they have the premium account. So, but I'd still come back here and turn myself back on so I could see the last 5 people. The other one is if you're going to be doing a lot of changes to LinkedIn, this sharing your profile edits, you obviously don't want a whole bunch of people to be notified if you're updating your LinkedIn profile, so you can turn that one to no. So back to your LinkedIn profile and a couple of other different ways that you can support your school. So in See Contact Information, you may decide to put the school's phone number in here, or the school's website, or the school's Facebook page, or the school's LinkedIn company profile, whatever. But when you add websites, I really encourage you not to just choose personal or company, but actually choose other. Now, if you don't want to put in anyone else apart from the school, then you could perhaps put in the professional associations that you're a part of. If you're a registered teacher, or any other things that are relevant, you can do that. And then you've got, when you choose other, a 30-character description that you can write in here to explain that. Your phone number can be added in here as well, and your address, and you can add Twitter and instant messaging, but please do not add your date of birth. I'm an ex-banker and I get very, very nervous when people include information about their date of birth. Okay, so moving on from there, the experience section has changed recently, and now you have to keep pressing see more, which is very irritating. But you'll see here I haven't just said I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist. I've added in more keywords that I want to be known for in that box. And that's obviously going to help me come up in search results for those. And because you can only see the top 7 lines here, or 8 lines, you really need to make sure that that message is very powerful as well. So keep in mind how you're going to write that, and then you can go into more general achievements and tasks and your contact details. And if you want to recommend someone in particular, you can do that, or you can link to an enrollment page or a marketing page or whatever is sort of your speciality in the school. Volunteer experience is also an option, and I've done a lot of different voluntary work, and as you can see, you don't have to click see more for that. It just automatically shows it all, and particularly if it's a professional association, that can be very helpful. So if you're on the Educate Plus team, by all means add that on to your LinkedIn profile. And I've got involved in schools and animals, the church across the road, lots of different little things over time. So really encourage you to fill out the volunteer experience in the same way as you would the formal experience. As I said earlier, you would still shuffle your endorsements, can't shuffle your recommendations, but then there's all these other sections that you can complete. So organisations, which is where you are a member, certifications, which is where you are a professional member, and then any honours or awards, publications, languages. I'm guessing most of you know how to speak English, so you could obviously put that one on, and any level of competency for the other languages. And then you can also write up projects, courses, even test scores. So all worth trying. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to look at is, it says here websites. I mentioned that before. You could even consider adding Educate Plus in here as well. So that's another option for you. Okay. Moving on, we'll go over to page 8. By the way, the only section I don't have is a patent, because that's obviously one of the choices in here. But yeah, I'm not going to go and get a patent just so I can fill in the box on LinkedIn, although I did think about it one day. By the way, you're also welcome to stalk me as often as you like and check out my profile and borrow any ideas off of it. And there's a link on the top of page 8 about how to showcase your professional membership on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to showcase your Educate Plus membership in a bit more detail, feel free to follow that link. Now, there are some schools on LinkedIn that only have a company profile. So we found out while I was running the workshop that Camberwell Girls Grammar School only has a company profile on LinkedIn. Now, it's pretty good in that they've got nearly 600 people following it, and they've still got their information, and it's all good, but nothing's happened there recently. But more importantly, there's another challenge with this. So conversely, Carey Baptist Grammar is a school. So you can see there it says school. Now, when we click on this profile, we can see they've got more followers. They've also got some alumni. So now when we look at this information, we can go into a little bit more detail about what the alumni do, the connections, and they've actually been updating their LinkedIn profile as well. So you can see here, it's giving them much more bang for their buck. And also it means that if I went to Carey, so if I go back to my own profile and I add in education, and I imagine that I'm a year 11 or a year 12 school student, I can automatically choose the school and fill in the details. And then what will happen is I will get the Carey logo in here. Now that's really good brand recognition, because obviously if all of your students, and I encourage you to get about 80% of your students on LinkedIn before they leave the school, and that means every time somebody looks at one of those student profiles, they're going to see your school's profile. And that's obviously fantastic branding, because if you click on it, it'll go straight to there and you'll see, more statistics. Sorry, my voice is just fading slightly. So on page 8 of your notes, I just want to really refer back to this in a bit more detail. You can see here that if you do still only have a company page, there are ways to maximize it. And there's also some guidelines on how individual employees can support the school. So you might want to have a look at that and encourage a discussion at a staff PD day at some point, at least in the advancement professionals team. But if you are ready to take the bold move and go from that company profile to the school profile, then just follow this link here, and that gives you the instructions on how to apply to LinkedIn and to have your company profile converted to a school profile, which will be far more beneficial for you. I also encourage you, as I've just said, 80% of your school students to have a LinkedIn profile and have it updated before they leave the school, because after they've left the school, it's very hard to convince them to update their LinkedIn profile. And if they have, you're still going to have to reach out and try and do that, and obviously increase your numbers year on year for that. I also encourage your school careers advisors and principal to have excellent LinkedIn profiles. They can hardly be encouraging other people in the school to do a great LinkedIn profile if they don't have one. But I do really encourage you to make sure that you follow the LinkedIn user agreement. Now, what's happened with some schools is they have accidentally, as Sienna has here, so I'll just copy that link, created a profile for the school as a person. And you can't do that. So we're running the risk with this particular profile of LinkedIn removing it, because it is against the LinkedIn user agreement. But they were using it to connect with their alumni, and there's a lot of connections there. So we've just changed the name to something that looks almost like a person, and we're leaving it there. But as a backup, obviously downloading the connections on a regular basis and still trying to put information out through the school profile. So yeah, clicking on here will go through to the school. So that's a way around it if you've already got that in place. But as I said, be warned, I'm not recommending it, because at any time LinkedIn could delete that profile. I also suggest that for your company profiles or your school profiles, which will be on your little menu here if you're an administrator, that you aim to have at least 3 staff members in the school as administrators on one of those profiles. And also, if you would like more information on how to use LinkedIn, I've written a couple of articles for schools and universities on Education Review and Campus Review websites. So if you'd like copies of those, let me know. Also, a little while back, I updated the LinkedIn profile for this deputy principal, and you can see a variety of different things I've done here to showcase her career and update the LinkedIn profile. So if one of your staff members has a very, very comprehensive resume, then I'm happy to assist you with getting that information into LinkedIn in a productive, purposeful way. So again, back to your statistics, thinking about the metrics that you need to measure, I would suggest your company or school followers should increase year on year, and from now on, 80% of your students should be on LinkedIn before they leave the school, and you aim to get more and more of your previous alumni on LinkedIn, increase your followers, and get at least 80% of your employees on LinkedIn and listing your school as their employer. Past students, try and increase that number year on year of being recognised and updating their LinkedIn profile in their education section to choose your school profile. And try and, whenever you send out an update in the news feed for your school or your company, that you get 5 or more likes on it. And then update links. So I also encourage, for every post that you make, to actually copy the link to that. So we'll just go back to Carey. And I'll show you their post. So here's a post. So every time you post something, you copy the link to the post, and then you put that in your own little spreadsheet. So if for any reason something terrible happens and you need to remove it, or you need to follow up or edit or something, you've immediately got that link to the post. The scary thing is that after 12 months, your previous posts don't show anymore. And so unless you have this link to the post, you will not be able to go back and retrospectively see any of your content. So if you can write down the date and the details of what's in here and the link, and keep a record of that, I really, really encourage you to do so. Now, again on page 9, I start to talk to you about content strategies. And the first level of content strategy is just get involved, like, comment or share things that are in the news feed. And, obviously there's different ways of measuring it, and I can't guarantee which is the way to do it with LinkedIn. As in what the algorithm favours more than another, although I know it does like video, is that I would assume that a like is worth 1 brownie point, a comment worth sort of 5, and a share worth 10, but it could be different to that. But obviously the more engagement, and the sooner that engagement occurs after posting, the more likely your post is going to go viral. You can also curate other people's content. That's your second stage. So you might not be ready to write your own content, but you might be willing to sort of go looking for really good stuff and share it through your newsfeed. And then ultimately you'll create both posts, which will be in the newsfeed, or articles, which are your own blog and unique content, and you can share those as well. But it's not a good idea to just shove content out into the platform all the time and not engage with anybody else's content. So if you're an alumni, you could relate to some of your past students and like, comment and share some of their content. If you're in marketing, you could be pinging your sponsors for fairs and events and different things, and letting them get involved, and perhaps engaging with some of their online content. So, think about how you don't just forward out or broadcast all of your content, but how you can actually engage. And that particular link there gives you a lot more information on that topic. The next thing to think about is evergreen content. Content that, if your school is really focused on a particular theme, then if the principal writes about that topic, then it can be optimized in Google search results. So if we just copy this query, tough love for the unemployed, and pop that into Google, and please feel free to try this at home, you'll see my 2 articles of my 3 that I've written about tough love appear first and second on Google search results. So that's an article on LinkedIn. So just to remind you, if you go to your own LinkedIn profile, it says here, write an article, and away you go, and you can do that for yourself as well. Okay, so the next thing is, if you are going to write posts, you might also like to add a copy of it to archive.org/web, so that there's a permanent copy of that content online, and you can't delete it from there. But if you're wanting to keep sort of an extra backup of your content, obviously I recommend you keep a copy of your own information you've published online, and keep a copy on the cloud in case your USB or your disk blows up, or you lose it. So yeah, and then you can also pop it on archive.org. So if you're going to write posts and you get early engagement, and you put in an image before you add in any text or a link, and you upload a video, and if you can also, a native video, as in you upload it directly into LinkedIn, you can also add in what's called an SRT file. And if you don't know how to get an SRT file, if you first of all upload the video to YouTube and organize captions, then what will happen is that captions will then, information of captions will be able to be downloaded as an SRT file. So you might choose to publish the video on YouTube and then publish it natively on LinkedIn and upload that SRT file, because a lot of people like watching video online, but they don't always have the sound turned up because they might be at work or they might be on public transport. And so, having those captions really helps engage people and keeps them reading your message. You might like to ping some other people in the post by typing @ and their name, or including hashtags, which are basically subjects. So you may have a particular hashtag that all of your school posts have on social media, so feel free to add that in when you're posting on LinkedIn. You could encourage individual people to engage. So say, for instance, you know that the fair's coming up and you've got the email address of the top 10 sponsors. You could send them a link to the post and say, hi guys, we've just shared this on LinkedIn. Can you all please like, comment and share it through your networks? So that could work really well. You also need to personally respond to any comments that appear. And if you recycle the post a week later by sort of adding another comment, sometimes that can keep it going viral. So what I'd like to do is show you a couple of examples. So first of all, we'll try this one. And I sent this one out late on a Friday afternoon. And what I did is a screenshot of my presence on the CDA website, because I'd just been appointed a member. And then I started off with the word today, which gives it currency, even though it's obviously not current anymore. And I've pinged, typed @ and the name of the organisation. And I've linked to the main website and then my individual profile page. And then I've pinged various other people through here and added hashtags. So it had, over 10,000 views very, very quickly in the first 7 days, 114 likes and 76 comments. So it really went crazy. It took me all afternoon responding every time somebody wrote a comment, but obviously that got my message out far and wide. So it was very, very worthwhile. The other post that's in there, you might say, oh, well, that's Sue just because you've been on LinkedIn for so long. They're obviously going to promote you. But this was Maria's first post. So I did some work out at Melbourne Airport and gave her this type of information, and this was her first post. So she's obviously added the photo, and it's a cool photo because it's got all these faces in it. And if anybody's been to Melbourne Airport, they'll know that that's the walkway down to the Jetstar departure lounge. And then she's pinged me and used a hashtag and another hashtag and another hashtag, and she doesn't have a link to elsewhere. So people remain on the LinkedIn platform after reading this information. So again, she had 6,000 views within 7 days, 114 likes and 33 comments, and it's still doing the rounds. So just yesterday I checked her profile, and people are still showing interest in this. So I imagine it's way over 6,000 views now, but that worked really, really well for her. Also in your notes, you'll see that there's some more instructions on 20 ways to encourage a LinkedIn post to go viral. And then I also remind you to keep a copy of your content and those post URLs in your own spreadsheet. Now, the next thing is if you start doing a lot of searches. So one of my clients, he went to Camberwell Grammar School. He's a boy, and he's trying to organise a reunion. So he tried to find all of his old colleagues on LinkedIn, and for those he couldn't find, he actually messaged everybody he did find and said, look, do you know of this person or this person or this person? And I think he ended up with nearly a full reunion 30 years later by using LinkedIn as a research tool to try and find people. So if you hit the search box and then you click the magnifying glass, you'll see that there are lots of ways to search for people, connections, locations, companies, or you can see all the different filters and you can start looking for people and try and find them, which is another reason why you really want that school profile, because then you could search by school and you could find, everybody that way. But what could happen is you could do so many searches that unfortunately you run out of searches on LinkedIn, and they say that you've gone beyond personal use and you're now at commercial use. So what you can do is you can do a Google advanced search, and what you would do is, say for instance it was Camberwell Grammar School as a word you wanted to find, and you would choose site or domain, LinkedIn, and you could do an advanced search. And then obviously all these people start appearing that have got Camberwell Grammar School in their LinkedIn profile, and you could reach out to all of those people, check out their LinkedIn profiles, make sure they've listed the school properly, got the logo appearing, etc., etc. So yes, if you do run out of allowable searches, definitely encourage you to consider a Google advanced search. Also underneath that in the notes, it says how to make leads, get sales leads and results out of LinkedIn. So if you're looking for, philanthropic funds, or you're trying to push a message out to the LinkedIn community, really encourage you to read that. And guess what? The first part says create your own LinkedIn profile. So yes, that is still really important component of this whole process. Now, as I said before, I do believe you should add videos to your LinkedIn profile. Your videos should be on your school YouTube channel, not the video production company's YouTube channel. And then you can display them throughout the various sections of your LinkedIn profile. And then where appropriate, obviously add them as posts, or put them in blog articles or LinkedIn articles as well. Also, generally keep them fairly short. A lot of people don't want to watch for too long. And as I said before, try and include that SRT file so that the captions will appear on the screen. So what I'd like to do now is show you a couple of examples of some things that look really cool. So this is Knox Grammar School announcing the new principal, production quality video, and it's got 143 likes, 16 comments, 5,000 views. And you can see it's got the logo of the school. And if we start watching it, sorry about the noise, so I might pause that. It's a really good quality video and tells a lovely story, and you can see that lots of people have got involved in that as well. So really good way to put something on the school profile on LinkedIn. The next one is Ravenswood, and what they've done here is they've had a company post that was shared, and what happened is they were promoting an art show, the women's art show, and they've put lots of hashtags in, and they tried to ping. It didn't quite work, but you get the idea. They're trying to acknowledge the people who've supported the art show, so really encourage you to consider doing that. I've obviously put a little comment in there and pinged the school as well, so that's another option. The next one is the Deputy Principal sharing some information on their involvement in positive education. So if you're updating the profile on behalf of senior staff, Kim here has curated this piece from somebody else, a TEDx talk, and she shared that through her network. Now, it hasn't got the same level of engagement, but obviously she didn't have to produce the content, she's just shared it. She could have actually included a bit of a description in here to encourage people to really click on it and engage with it, but I just like the fact that she's curating content. It's a really good strategy. Now, Sienna got some coverage in the local paper, and they didn't just leave it in the local paper. What they did was they shared it more broadly. And here's the Weekly Review article, and they've partly quoted it. Obviously, you can't fully quote other content because it's breaching copyright, but for a fairly inactive overall school profile at the time, it's got 7 likes, which is over the 5, which I recommend, and 1 comment. So a really good way of repurposing some coverage you got from somewhere else. If they'd also been able to ping the Weekly Review to let them know that it had been published, that could have been even better. The next one is St Michael's Grammar School, and don't underestimate the opportunity to incorporate some of your students in producing content. Obviously it needs to be approved and verified and checked and everything before it's shared, but this is a really good story, and it's pinged a few different people, and it sort of explains what's happening in the life of the school. So another really interesting piece. This one I like because I actually know this lady, and she's an alumni from the school, and she's actually receiving an award there, and the school has chosen to promote that through their LinkedIn profile as well. 14 likes, 1 comment, and yeah, I've pinged her as well because I know Helen through other sources. So it was nice to see her getting acknowledged there. Harvard University, so I've gone for an international example next. And this is showing how the university gets out to schools. And I think this is a really interesting story, and it showcases how the school students are invited up to Harvard to present their projects. 593 likes. Now, obviously, there's a lot more people in America, but that's pretty outstanding and really good recognition for the students who are getting their first taste of Harvard. So I like that one as well. And Macquarie have picked up a topic that's in the public domain and responded to it. And what they've done here is they've shown that they're on top of these things and are contributing in their own way, and linked to their own articles. 72 likes and 3 comments. So again, providing relevant content but related to a topical issue. So in closing, I'd just like to remind you, please be ethical at all times. The LinkedIn user agreement is there. Don't try and manipulate it by having some automatic system that tries to generate leads or follows people up or invites people automatically. Most of those things are going to be against the LinkedIn user agreement, and if you're found to be using them, you do run the risk of having all of your profiles deleted, which is obviously very serious. So please check the user agreement out and make sure you abide by that. As I said earlier, more than happy to answer quick questions via email, or if you'd like me to come to your school and help out a bit further, happy for us to have a chat about that. Also, if you want to do the Find Nearby on your phone, you have to turn on Bluetooth first and then open the LinkedIn app, click on My Network, which is the 2 little people on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and then at the top of your screen you choose Find Nearby, and it will scan the room a bit like a dating app and try and find people who are in the room, and you can invite them all to connect. Alternatively, if you press your finger in the search box in the app, a little scan code option will appear directly underneath the search box, and one will be your camera and one will be your QR code. And so if you're one-on-one networking, you can either have the QR code or the camera, and the other person has the QR code or the camera, and you can connect very easily without having to type anything in to the app, because it just picks it up from that QR code. I'd also like to remind you again about those social media stats, and also Census has produced some amazing social media reports that are well worth reading, both last year's and this year's. Last year's report demonstrated how a lot of Australians assume that they get value out of social media, but most of them have not been able to declare any return on investment, which is terribly frightening to someone like me, because money is, quite often hard to find, even in private schools or larger universities. So I really encourage you to check out those social media reports and really understand what's happening there. I recently found out how to verify myself with Google, which involves me actually logging in and signing into 5 social media profiles and providing screenshots of that to be verified. But that's a new feature that's come out recently. So a bit like the blue tick on Twitter for, high profile people to say, yes, this is the real person tweeting. Google now has the real person for the Google account. And if you're thinking about developing social media, you must start with good quality real estate. You need to build your connections and your followers, or people who engage with your content. You must always produce good quality content. Respond in a timely and appropriate way to any of the feedback, unless it's just trolls. Then I think you're at liberty to ignore it. And then invite those quality transactions by reaching out to people and then analysing and reviewing what works and what doesn't. You may also like to check out the presentation that I did at Illawarra Grammar School in Wollongong. So I went there in the afternoon and did a presentation to Year 12 students, and then in the evening they invited the alumni of the school and local businesses, and I did a presentation on LinkedIn for those people. If I'm visiting a school, I normally suggest 3 presentations, one for the students, one in the afternoon for the careers teachers and maybe advancement professionals, and one in the evening for students, parents, alumni, and in this case, as I said, local businesses. I also did a presentation recently for the Catholic Development Network, so if you want to see sort of a live video and the screen, you're also welcome to check that out. I'd really appreciate any feedback you've got on this. This is obviously an additional service that I've provided as part of the event. I trust you find it really, really helpful. It's obviously a lot quicker to get through this with me just talking and not interacting with the audience. So you've saved yourself some time by listening to this presentation. Thank you once again to Educate Plus, specifically to Russell Davidson and Julianne Brandon here in Victoria for coordinating the event. And I look forward to seeing you at an Educate Plus event or some other event in the future. Thanks very much, and bye for now.